So, welcome all. Welcome to our live viewers and also recording viewers. My name is Donny Kiernan. I'm the founder and CEO of Tenego Partnering, and interviewing today is John O'Brien, who's the CEO of S3 Group. So this is a part of a series in which Tenego are sponsoring the Irish Software Association Awards, and John's company, S3, have won a few awards over the years. So, John, thank you very much for joining us.
Nice to talk to you, Donna.
So it's the first question on our list, John, in 1 minute or less, if you manage that. Who are the S3 Group, your customers, and what do you do for them?
Okay, fair enough. Well, probably a little bit of recent news. So up until October 22nd of this year, we had 3 businesses in S3 Group. But as you probably know, on that date, we completed the sale of our TV technology business to Accenture. So today, or as in the last 2 weeks, we now have 2 businesses in S3 Group, and that's our Connected Health and our Semiconductor Solutions business. And just at a top level, in our Connected Health business, it's basically focused on delivering better outcomes through connected solutions. And we work with sort of 3 classes of customers. We work with healthcare providers, we work with pharmaceutical companies, and we work with medical device companies to create scalable programs in the area of chronic disease management, medication adherence, and patient engagement. So that's what we do in this business. Very, very exciting area. And in our Semiconductor Solutions business, essentially we bring the transformative power of silicon technology to deliver cost, functionality, and performance improvements for our customers' products and systems. And we've got a kind of unique combination of system knowledge, chip design knowledge, and intellectual property knowledge to develop these solutions. And there you see our customers, our designs on behalf of our customers are in volume production in areas like satellite communications, energy management, consumer electronic devices, and more increasingly in industrial controls and sort of IoT applications. So that's essentially what we do. So we're a multi-business company. As I said, up until a few weeks ago, we had 3. Now we have 2 businesses. In our own mindset, there's nothing for us to create nothing stopping us creating more businesses, which we may or may not do. But I suppose essentially the core of S3 is we seem to have an ability to create and manage these multiple businesses. I suppose giving the businesses a lot of freedom to operate, but at the same time applying some reasonably rigorous, business, financial, quality processes across the businesses. That's essentially what we do.
With the design side, it's very hardware technology. Whereas the healthcare is almost cloud solutions, probably. And they find them very different.
Pardon, Donna, can you... Yes, I mean, we seem to have we like diversity in S3 Group. Those 2 businesses are quite different from each other. Most definitely, even if you take a good example would be in our Connected Health business, we actually have medical, we have at least 1 medical doctor. We have people with behavioral psychology backgrounds, people with disease management backgrounds, people who understand clinical pathways and care pathways, how patients engage with technology for particular disease conditions. We have those type of people in the business, plus lots of software technology architects and system designers and developers. And on the silicon side, we still have quite a bit of system knowledge, but of course then we do go down into the silicon design, the silicon intellectual property, getting our designs done into the foundry, etc., etc. So yeah, they're 2 quite different businesses, but at one level we apply some basic rules to both of them.
Very good. What's the company's vision and stated goals?
Sure. Probably the best way to start this is, we have a very specific sort of strategy in S3 for creating businesses and bringing businesses into markets. And you see this pattern. This pattern has been repeated several times in S3. So we usually try to find a market that has potential, like everybody, but also fits our skills and fits the skills and experience of the company. And then we usually enter into that market in some form of professional services, beginning to learn the market, trying to find areas where we can apply our services skills, and we try to develop a customer base. And then what you'll see in S3 is after a certain period of time, we begin to create a product proposition when we can see something scalable. Okay, so we'll develop this mix of products and services. The third thing is that we always expand internationally. We seem to pick businesses that immediately demand us to create an international customer base. And the fourth piece is a really critical one for us. In whatever business we enter into, we try and relatively quickly map out the industry value chain, and we try to strive to work with the customers at the top of that industry value chain. And a really good example would be in the business that just went to Accenture, our TV technology business. Over the years, we built a fantastic business there, and their customers were the top tier video service operators worldwide. So Sky, Comcast, Time Warner Cable, they were our customers, and they were at the top of that industry chain. And that was our first business to get up there as quickly as we did. And we learned that was a really good path for S3. So we apply that same learning in our connected health business. We want to work with people at the top of that chain. And also in our silicon business, we've moved ourselves up there to work with system companies, even more so than semiconductor companies. And once you understand it, it's a very good strategy. It works very well for us. And it's a kind of a lesson that we apply in all of our businesses, essentially.
Each industry sector brings its own pace and challenges. Yeah.
Absolutely, and we have to be, let's be clear, we're not rigid, but you have to have some consistency on the one hand, and of course you have to be super adaptable on the other. But in a lot of businesses we have patterns that we follow, and of course we adjust the patterns as we see fit. But there's some sort of guiding principles that seem to have worked for us in creating these businesses over the past number of years.
S3 Group won the Irish Software Association Company of the Year in 2013. So if you want to cast your mind back to then, what was the business like then?
Yes.
And what did it mean to your business then?
Yeah, sure. I would say, well, the first thing I'd say is if you look at most, I haven't studied them all, but most, if not all, of the companies that win the Company of the Year award they're usually well past the startup phase. So at that point, we would have had, developed businesses, developed strategies, developed people management strategies, et cetera, et cetera. So we were a business that was quite reasonably developed. I think that's a criteria for winning at the very minimum the Company of the Year award. But in terms of what it meant for us, well, actually there was three things in it. I would say, first off, it was very interesting and satisfying to be recognised by our peers in Ireland. And generally in S3 Group, we don't spend a lot of money or put our head too high above the parapet in Ireland from a publicity perspective. We spend a lot of our marketing and sales dollars overseas in the markets that we participate in. But it was nice to have our name up in lights in Ireland for that. And the second piece of that is that it was very good for employees, both in Ireland and overseas, to see that recognition. Now, that was very, very important. And then a side effect of that, of course, is that it helps with recruitment. And when you put it on your email tail that you're the Company of the Year and you get publicity, it does heighten your profile, probably more in Ireland than overseas in terms of a recruitment perspective. And the final piece then is from a customer perspective, which is kind of interesting, and that if you the first point there is Ireland, I think, is everywhere we go is very well recognized as a technology hub, whether it's in software, silicon, technology in general. The reputation of the Irish indigenous companies, coupled with all the phenomenal multinationals we have here, Ireland is up there in terms of technology hub. So if you say you were the Irish Software Association Technology Company of the Year, people correctly assume that you were up against some stiff competition. So it kind of creates a little bit of an aura around the company that they assume that, well, you didn't get this very easily and you must be substantial. So it does help, and it certainly does help create an extra bit of selling oomph around the company as well.
Well done to all. Also, won sort of the ISA Digital Technology Service Project of the Year last year, 2014, and I understand you have entrance again for this year's awards, which is on Friday night this week. So the Irish Digital Technology Services Project.
That's right.
So that's Digital Technology Services Project of the Year is the one you won last year. And you're up again this year for, yes, I think, a similar one or other ones as well.
Yeah, there's two more this year, actually. Yeah, we were in for the innovation one and the services award. Yeah, I think actually it's a very interesting category because well, first of all, when you win these things, the same points apply as to winning the company of the year, the benefits, because you get recognized in Ireland and overseas, and all the benefits of employees and customers still accrue to you. But I think it's also interesting that they do separate out this, let's say, the services projects of the year, because a lot of tech companies have mixtures of services and products, and I think it's a very good thing to recognize. And excellence in services can also be a key part, in our case anyway, of building these mixed product service type
businesses. You be there
businesses.
yourself on Friday night? Yes.
Absolutely, I will be there. We always have a gang from S3 will be there. No, I've assured Owen in the ISA that I will be there.
But I think it's for you then, and you personally. So you're founder of S3 Group, isn't that right? And from the initial expectations you had for S3 and how that has progressed. So do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Sure. Yeah, I would say, well, in a sense of being a founder, I wasn't the original founder of S3 Group, to be clear, but I would say that S3 has been around for quite a long time. I would say that the company was sort of reborn again in 2006, and without going into all the details, in 2006 we did a management buyout of the company from the existing shareholders, and we brought in some venture capital money to assist with that, right? And so that was essentially kind of a rebirth of S3. And the reason it was is when we did this, what we intended to do, what we set out to do, was to create multiple businesses, but to bring a products element to those businesses. So that was a journey we started on in 2006. And broadly speaking, we've certainly been making good progress along that line. But I would say that look, there's no doubt about it. I think there's three things for me. One is you have to have a mix of doggedness and persistence on one side, and then you have to have the ability to be adaptable on the other. And you need to know when to make one move or the other. And people call it pivots, etc. So you need to be absolutely focused on where you want to go, but at the same time be capable of being adaptable. That's the first lesson. But the other piece of that for me personally is, particularly in the context of S3 Group, it's no good just the CEO thinking that. And what we have managed to do in S3 Group is we have built up some really, I would say, phenomenal leadership teams in each of those businesses. And the only way to do it, those guys are well capable of doing pivots before I can spot them, let's say, put it that way. And that's the only way to actually make a company successful, is to have empowered, smart leadership teams, whether it's at a business level or even down inside the businesses, that are capable of seeing and making these decisions. So that would be the biggest lesson for me. You have to be dogged and persistent, but you have to know when to adapt. And many levels of the organization need to be capable of making those decisions. That would be, from a personal perspective, I be honest, I consider myself extremely lucky and privileged to lead S3 Group. It's a very exciting company. If you want variety, it's the place to go. We've got, we create businesses in lots of different areas, and whether I have an interest in healthcare, I have an interest in silicon, I have an interest in video, I have an interest in whatever business we start next. So personally, the variety of the challenges and the variety of the business is phenomenal.
As CEO, you have a great team, and anyone I've interacted with in S3, fantastic people, very strong capabilities around you. But your role in that mix, obviously, it's your capabilities. So is it sales related? Is it management? Is it leadership? The mix of those, or what is it?
Yeah, I suppose it's a mix, and it's an interesting thing. Broadly speaking, I probably do spend a considerable amount of time outside the company, so meeting customers, and a lot of time when they meet me, I suppose, yes, I'm selling in some instances, but I'm also giving them, let's say, what's the philosophy of the company, particularly with new customers. Who is S3 Group? Who are they dealing with? What type of people are we? Can we form long-term business relationships with this company, and to be to be sort of, I suppose, be one of the people they look at to say, well, okay, I've met this guy. He is representative of what this company is about. So I'm hugely conscious of the representative role you have when you're the CEO of a company, as well as a selling role, because I think people do look at you and they say, okay, what is this guy like? And what you're like gives them correctly or incorrectly an impression of what it's going to be like to deal with the entire company. So I spend a lot of time on that side of it. The other side of it, though, is actually really kind of sitting with the different businesses, trying to plot out the strategy and try to work through it with the leadership team, but in a way that's a very empowered manner, so to speak. I mean, there's no doubt I try to have leadership teams in those businesses that are well capable of running those businesses on an ongoing basis without me having to tell them what they do every minute of the day or even every day or even every week. But then what we try to do is every month we try to, okay, look at the operations of these businesses. Are they on track from a short-term plan perspective and our budgeting perspective? But then also at a higher level, we try to sort of maybe, if you want to put down one-page strategies, I mean, there's a lot of detail behind it. Are we, broadly speaking, going where we want to go over the next 2 or 3 years, and to kind of keep having those discussions, and to, if we've got to do some trimming or adapting, etc., that we have those discussions together. So that's I suppose that's a little bit my role. I'm also probably spend some time working on the sort of positioning and the messaging and trying to simplify the messages of the business, and that's another role that I play in the company as well.
So I think you've answered some parts of this, with the key challenges you had to overcome in business and yourself in leading the company through the challenges. You talked very much about the business aspects there, but the personal aspects of it.
Yeah, the personal aspects. That's a good point. Yeah, I wouldn't say that. No, I think actually sometimes being a CEO is quite a lonely role in that respect. And actually in Ireland, there's some very good networks there. Like, I'm part of the Irish Software, the CEO Forum there. And there's no doubt about it, being able to talk with other CEOs and discuss the challenges that you face, that's a phenomenal asset to have, right? And I think that helps a lot. I suppose we've had our ups and downs in S3 Group over the years. There's certainly been challenges. I think the more challenges you go through, the better your decision making gets. And I would say that the longer I do this thing, I probably tend to make the decisions faster on fewer facts, because you kind of know what to do and maybe you can spot some patterns. So it actually is getting less stressful the longer I do it, which is probably a good thing, which will encourage me to keep going for another while. And then the other thing, I know I'm going back to it again, is the people that you hire are, that's the secret to it all. If you think you're the only leader in the company, then you're really at a dead end, right? And if you don't surround yourself with other leaders, I think you're lost, basically. And I hope nobody's perfect, and I'm certainly not perfect in that regard, but really, leadership teams, running businesses or running parts of businesses, or whatever way you want to divide up and run your company or empower your company, that's really the skill. And I suppose early in your career, you've got to kind of, get over yourself. I certainly don't see myself as the expert in anything in S3 Group or knowing everything about S3 Group. There's always more people who know more about S3 Group than I do in any one conversation. That's another thing you have to get comfortable with over time, and that you're sometimes coaching people and guiding people as opposed to ordering people. The ordering comes on occasion, but it's usually in the minority.
Coming year?
Key challenges for the coming year. Yeah, it's we have a lot of hiring to do. So I really anticipate us continuing to hire quite a lot of people next year. That's the first thing. In our Semiconductor Solutions group, I think we are on the cusp of finding even more of these system companies, and making sure we deliver, and we can deliver the sort of good silicon economic equations to these people. Like, we spend a lot of time in S3 now trying to figure out the essence of what we do. There's a lot of complexity in what we do, and everyone knows that. The complexity of chip design and building massive connected health systems is a lot of complexity. but we can never be good enough at distilling it all down into something, a simple value proposition for the range of customers that we do. So there's a lot of effort continuing to refine the mission, the message, the value propositions that's ongoing in Silicon. Never ends, yeah. And then on the connected health side, actually we have there's many things happening next year in connected health, but at a very, very high level, we would like to move the needle a little bit in the area of medication adherence for the patients of some of our customers, and that's a very interesting goal to have. In other words, we're quite heavily involved in programs, essentially where we're trying to get people to take their medicine. Sounds like a simple thing, but we're dealing in some very specific therapy areas, some very specific disease conditions. And what you find basically, which shocked me when I began to read into it, is the level of medication adherence is quite low, even for very severe conditions. So if we could just get people, if we could move the needle in some of these areas, even a couple of percent, 5 or 10%, to get 5 or 10% more of our patient cohort, of our customers, to take their medicine, you could see phenomenal health outcomes, and that would be very satisfying. So that's kind of a very lofty goal, but that's what we're aiming to do for some of our customers, and that would be very exciting.
The Internet of Things, IoT,
so they're some of the challenges.
Space too, going to be very interesting.
The Internet of Things, IoT, technologies in the space too.
Absolutely, yeah, and our Silicon business is very well set up for IoT because we already have customers in the area of industrial control. We have very strong wireless skills and RF skills in the company. And also when you go inside our Silicon business, we have some very unique intellectual property in low power data conversion technology. So basically A to D and D to A converters that are perfectly suited to, let's say, the sensing and communicating side of IoT. So those converters, given their expertise and their competitiveness, are taking us into IoT applications. And there's a lot of opportunities out there. We see it in areas like industrial controls, pipelines, etc. Everywhere you begin to see people adding control, essentially, if you want to put the control and sensing to different points in the system. So it's IoT we're already in IoT in some senses.
Last question for you. I'm sure you've asked all the time to advise, say, up-and-coming tech CEOs or startup CEOs. What's the key advice you give them?
Oh my God, okay. Yeah, I also tend not to dispense advice too readily, right? Because my own experience, I mean...
you probably are doing it again.
I was doing it again. Okay, I suppose if I was doing it again, I might. I probably am. I am doing it again all the time. That's the thing. I think, from my own experience, I would say over the years, I always go back. If people ask, what would I have done faster, maybe, or could I take? If I looked at the decision chains I took in certain directions, I always try and look back and say, well, could I have done it faster and smarter? And yeah, I think actually the simplification message, right? I think we're learning it very rapidly in S3 Group, but actually the idea of being able to distill the essence of what you do, whether it's the value proposition, the message, the positioning, to get that as simple as possible and to test it with your customer groups. That's one kind of lesson that burns through my brain. Get to very simple essence, and you see it these days. If you look at some of the best marketing companies, they do something very complex. You go to their website, and the first thing you see is almost this little animated video, right? And you might think that they've got very sophisticated buyers. A lot of people watch those videos just to get the essence of what the company actually does, and then it leads them into, maybe the much more complicated product and service and solution set. So I would say I would have, if I had my time over again, I would have distilled the essence of the messaging, positioning of S3 Group and its different businesses a little bit faster. I would most certainly have done that. That would be one key lesson. Yeah, but that's one. Others, yeah, probably get comfortable with making decisions with less facts, but you get that with experience as well. But on the other hand, as I said, I'm not really the business of dispensing advice, and the reason is I meet on a regular basis Irish CEOs of, let's say, smaller companies in S3 Group, small startup companies, and there's an awful lot of phenomenal people out there that I can learn from when I listen to them as well, you know. So that's the end of my advice dispensing for John, this morning, you know.
That's it. So thank you very much. So best of luck. Best of luck at the awards, the Irish Software Association Awards this Friday night. But good session, and thank you. Okay.
Not at all. Thank you very much, Dylan. Nice to speak to you.